Section 1. In the dimly lit control room of the Galactic Alliance's Central Command, an emergency alarm echoed through the halls, a piercing sound that sent shivers through even the most hardened officers. Tensions in the galaxy had been rising for weeks, but this was different. A crisis of unprecedented scale was emerging, and the Alliance was caught completely off guard. Captain Lyra Voltan, a seasoned officer with decades of experience, reviewed the latest intelligence reports on her screen, her expression a mix of disbelief and frustration. According to the reports, a mysterious, highly advanced fleet had entered Alliance space and was moving in a coordinated assault pattern toward key planets. So far, all attempts at communication had failed. The invaders had ignored every message sent their way, responding only with silence and destruction. As Lyra tried to make sense of the chaos, Admiral Vero, her commanding officer, entered the control room with a somber expression. "Captain Voltan," he said, his voice grave, "this situation is spiraling out of control. We need to escalate our defenses." "Yes, Admiral," Lyra responded, struggling to hide her frustration. "But our ships are outmatched, and we have no idea what these invaders want. Our only option at this point might be, well, unconventional." Admiral Vero sighed, crossing his arms. "There is one last option, Captain. One we haven't considered because, frankly, it feels like a risk. But if anyone can handle this, it's them." Lyra raised an eyebrow, curious. "Who do you mean, sir?" The Admiral gave her a faint, knowing smile. "Humans." Lyra's eyes widened. Humanity had recently joined the Alliance, and though they were relatively new to intergalactic relations, they had already gained a reputation for unpredictability and resilience. The galaxy's more established species saw them as resourceful, but unconventional. "Are we sure about that, sir?" Lyra asked cautiously. "Humans, they're not exactly known for following protocol." "Precisely," Admiral Vero replied with a glint in his eye. "We've tried everything in the book, and it hasn't worked. This is a situation where we might need a little human creativity." With a resigned nod, Lyra activated the communications console. Minutes later, her message reached Earth's representatives, and the call was transferred to an unusual candidate, a human captain known as Jackson Ford. Captain Ford was infamous for his unconventional methods and his disregard for the formalities that defined the Alliance's more seasoned officers. As his holographic image appeared on Lyra's screen, she immediately saw a casual smile on his face, his posture relaxed despite the urgent circumstances. "Captain Ford," Lyra greeted, attempting to sound polite but firm. "We're facing a serious threat. A hostile fleet is moving toward key planets, and we're out of ideas. We need your help." Ford's expression turned serious, though his eyes still sparkled with a hint of mischief. "I hear you, Captain Voltan. Let's get a plan together. My team and I will handle it." Lyra couldn't help but feel a mix of hope and apprehension. The fate of countless worlds now rested in the hands of humans, and as much as she respected them, she couldn't shake the feeling that the universe itself was holding its breath, waiting to see what humanity would do next. Section 2. Captain Jackson Ford didn't waste any time. As soon as he ended the transmission with Captain Voltan, he gathered his team aboard the SS Venture, a sleek but modest Earth-made frigate outfitted with a mix of standard Alliance technology and a few human innovations that bordered on unregulated experimentation. His crew was made up of diverse talents, scientists, engineers, and strategists who each brought a unique skill set to the table. Ford stood at the center of the command deck, addressing his crew. "All right, folks, you've all heard the news. We've got a hostile fleet tearing through Alliance space, and it seems like we're the only ones crazy enough to take it on." He flashed his trademark grin, which always seemed to lift the spirits of his crew even in the darkest times. "Let's show them what humans can do when we're under pressure." The first officer, Lieutenant Maria Ortega, was already at her station, reviewing scans of the enemy fleet's composition. Captain, initial reports indicate that the enemy ships are outfitted with advanced shielding and long-range weapons. They're using tech we've never encountered before. Ford crossed his arms, considering the information. Right, so a head-on assault would be suicide. We're going to need to get clever with this one. He tapped the console, bringing up a tactical map of the star systems surrounding the area. What do we know about their approach route? Ortega expanded the map, highlighting key planets and space stations. They're moving in a direct line toward the Alliance capital, but they're bypassing smaller outposts. Looks like they're prioritizing major population centers and strategic hubs. Ford rubbed his chin, an idea already forming. They're aiming to intimidate. This isn't just a takeover, it's a scare tactic to get the Alliance to surrender without a fight. Lieutenant Zane Walker, the ship's head engineer, stepped forward, a gleam of excitement in his eye. If it's a psychological game they're playing, why don't we turn the tables? Humans are great at scaring the crap out of people when we want to. We could set up a series of distractions, make them think they're facing a much larger force than just us. Ford nodded, appreciating the spark of creativity in his team. Exactly. Let's play to our strengths. We'll need decoys, false signals, and Zane, think you can rig some of our drones to give them a bit of a scare? Zane grinned. You know it, Captain. I'll make M look like we've got a whole fleet backing us up. Over the next several hours, the crew worked tirelessly, preparing the SS Venture for a series of hit-and-run tactics designed to confuse and frustrate the enemy fleet. Zane and his engineering team modified several drones, equipping them with holographic projectors to make them appear as fully armed Alliance battleships. Lieutenant Ortega programmed them to send out decoy signals, simulating the presence of a larger fleet. The next day, as the enemy fleet entered a densely packed asteroid field near the planet Alera, Ford's plan went into action. The drones activated, scattering throughout the field, each one projecting the image of a powerful Alliance warship. Ford and his crew watched as the enemy fleet paused, likely confused by the sudden appearance of what seemed to be a sizable defense force. Now, let's give them a light show, Ford said, grinning as he signaled for the drones to start firing harmless energy bursts. From a distance, it would look like the drones were engaging in a defensive maneuver. The enemy fleet adjusted its formation, attempting to outflank what it assumed were Alliance forces. They're falling for it, Ortega said, barely able to hide her amusement. They're moving in to engage the drones. Perfect, Ford replied. Let's keep them guessing. The SS Venture darted in and out of the asteroid field, moving undetected thanks to the distraction provided by the decoys. Using the cover of the asteroid field, Ford was able to position the Venture close to the coalition fleet without being detected. Once in position, he activated a series of powerful electromagnetic pulses that disrupted the enemy's communication systems. For a few crucial minutes, the enemy fleet was effectively blinded, unable to coordinate or receive new orders. Ford didn't waste the opportunity. Ortega, relay coordinates to Alliance Command. Let them know we've bought them some time. She nodded, transmitting the message. Done, Captain. They're mobilizing reinforcements, but they'll need at least another day to reach us. Then we keep up the pressure, Ford replied, his tone resolute. Just as the SS Venture began another round of evasive maneuvers, one of the enemy ships caught onto the trick. A powerful frigate turned its focus on the SS Venture, lighting up its weapons systems and preparing for a direct assault. The drones had done their job, but now the enemy was beginning to realize the deception. Captain, they're locking onto us. Ortega reported, her voice tense. Ford gripped the console, his mind racing. They were outnumbered and outgunned. He couldn't outrun the fleet, but he could still outthink them. Initiate evasive maneuvers, Zane, get those shields up to max. If we're going to make it out of here, we need to pull out every trick we've got. Zane responded, his fingers flying over the controls. Shields to max, Captain. But they won't hold forever. The SS Venture twisted and turned through the asteroid field, dodging enemy fire with the agility of a much smaller ship. Ford kept a steady hand on the controls, expertly navigating the ship through narrow passages as plasma blasts narrowly missed them, detonating asteroids in their wake. Then, just as they thought they might shake the pursuit, the enemy frigate launched a powerful torpedo, its deadly payload arcing through space toward the Venture. Impact in 10 seconds. Ortega shouted, panic creeping into her voice. Ford clenched his jaw. Prepare countermeasures. As the torpedo closed in, Zane activated a last resort maneuver he'd rigged together, a series of makeshift reflective panels projected by the drones. The torpedo, detecting the false signals, veered off course, exploding harmlessly against an asteroid. The crew breathed a collective sigh of relief, but Ford knew this was only a temporary reprieve. We've bought ourselves some time, but we need to regroup. Zane, prepare the jump engines. We're getting out of here. Just as they prepared to leave, a final transmission from the Coalition fleet echoed over their comms, filled with frustration and anger. You think you can trick us with these pathetic illusions, human? You only delay the inevitable. Ford smirked, his eyes steely. It's not about delay. It's about making sure you know you're in over your heads. With that, the SS Venture engaged its jump drive, leaving the Coalition fleet scrambling in confusion as they slipped away. Ford knew they had only bought a little time, but every second mattered. Humanity had thrown the Coalition off balance, and now it was time to make their next move. Section 3. The SS Venture emerged from hyperspace in a calm region on the edge of the Nylar Nebula, a vast, swirling field of gaseous clouds that made long-range scans nearly useless, a perfect hiding place. As the ship stabilized from the jump, Captain Ford and his crew took a moment to regroup and assess the situation. Lieutenant Maria Ortega leaned over her console, scanning the nebula's outskirts. Captain, we've got incoming pings from nearby Alliance ships. Looks like reinforcements are here. Captain Ford exhaled, relief mingling with a renewed sense of urgency. The Alliance fleet had responded to their call, and now it was time to turn the tide. Within minutes, holographic images of several Alliance captains appeared on Ford's display. These were seasoned commanders from across the galaxy, each representing a different species. They listened as Ford outlined the situation, describing the Coalition's formidable forces and the deceptive tactics his crew had used to buy time. His unconventional strategies raised eyebrows among the Alliance commanders, but his calm confidence held their attention. Captain Araka, a towering Krelian with bioluminescent skin and a reputation for aggressive tactics, spoke first. Captain Ford, these Coalition ships are unlike anything we've faced. Are you suggesting we counter them with illusions? Ford grinned. Illusions, yes. But also precision. They're well equipped for open combat, but I doubt they're ready for a strategy they can't predict. Captain Liaratsoni, a slender, blue-skinned Eridan, nodded thoughtfully. We Eridans have faced similar threats in our history. A scattered, elusive approach could indeed throw them off balance. But we'd need to synchronize our fleets perfectly. Ford's eyes gleamed. That's exactly the plan, Captain Sony. We'll keep them guessing, divide their forces, and take them down one by one. The captains exchanged glances, and Ford could sense their hesitation. The Alliance valued structured tactics, and Ford's approach bordered on chaotic, even reckless. But desperate times called for desperate measures, and they all knew the Coalition's forces were too strong to confront head-on. After a tense pause, Captain Araka's lips curled into a grin, revealing sharp, predatory teeth. Very well, human. I'm in. Show us what you've got. The other captains nodded in agreement, each acknowledging Ford's command. Together, they formed a loose plan. They would divide their forces into small, agile strike groups, each equipped with cloaking devices and advanced holographic emitters. The teams would use hit-and-run tactics, disrupting the Coalition fleet, drawing them into isolated pockets, and whittling down their numbers. As the transmission ended and the captains prepared their ships, Ford addressed his crew. "All right, everyone. We've got an entire fleet depending on us. Let's make it count." The Alliance strike groups launched into position, dispersing through the nebula, each ship ready to engage in its own part of the grand deception. The Coalition fleet, still on the hunt for the elusive SS Venture, was drawn into the nebula, unaware that they were walking into a carefully crafted trap. The first phase of the plan began as Ford's team activated their holographic emitters, projecting images of massive warships moving through the nebula. The Coalition fleet, unable to distinguish real targets from decoys, fired at every phantom vessel they encountered, expending resources and spreading themselves thin. "Direct hit on a decoy," Ortega reported, a smirk playing at the corner of her mouth. "The Coalition is wasting their firepower on ghosts." "Perfect," Ford replied. "Let's keep them spinning." In one corner of the nebula, a small strike group led by Captain Iraka engaged a portion of the Coalition fleet. Iraka's ships darted in and out of the swirling clouds, using the nebula's density to mask their presence before launching coordinated, pinpoint attacks. The Coalition ships, unable to track the elusive fleet, fell victim to the Alliance's precise assaults. One by one, Coalition vessels erupted in brilliant explosions, their lights illuminating the thick mist of the nebula. Meanwhile, Captain Sonia's team executed a different tactic, deploying an array of signal jammers that disoriented the Coalition's communications. The enemy ships, disoriented and isolated from their fleet, floundered in confusion, unable to regroup or call for reinforcements. Inside the SS Venture, Ford and his crew monitored the battle's progress. The Coalition fleet was weakening, but the skirmishes were taking a toll on the Alliance forces as well. The crew of the Venture knew they couldn't sustain the deception forever. "Captain," Zane said, his voice tense, "our energy reserves are running low. We can't keep the emitters going much longer." Ford nodded. "Understood, Zane. We'll have to prepare for the final phase." He opened a channel to the other strike groups. "All units, converge on my signal. We're going to lure the Coalition fleet into a trap." Using the last of their energy reserves, Ford's team projected the image of a massive Alliance flagship at the heart of the nebula. The Coalition ships, desperate to eliminate their elusive foes, converged on the decoy, unaware of the Alliance ships lying in wait. "Prepare to engage," Ford commanded, his voice steady. "On my mark, 3, 2, 1, engage." The Alliance fleet surged from all sides, encircling the Coalition ships in a carefully coordinated ambush. Plasma cannons blazed, missiles streaked through the nebula, and beams of energy lit up the darkness as the Alliance launched a devastating assault on the Coalition's core forces. Ford watched from the command deck of the Venture, his heart pounding as he saw the Coalition ships falling one by one. It was working. The Coalition, disoriented and outmatched, had no choice but to retreat. Their fleet, once a formidable force, was reduced to fragments as they fled from the nebula, leaving behind the wreckage of their failed invasion. A cheer erupted among Ford's crew, and he allowed himself a moment to celebrate. But he knew the battle wasn't over just yet. The remnants of the Coalition fleet had regrouped, and they weren't about to leave without a fight. "Captain, the Coalition's remaining forces are rallying outside the nebula," Ortega reported. "They're calling for reinforcements." Ford clenched his fists. "All right, we've got one last shot to finish this. Let's remind them who they're dealing with." Ford ordered the Venture to lead the charge, his crew following his command with unwavering determination. The remaining Alliance ships formed up behind him, their weapons primed for one final strike. As they emerged from the nebula, they were met by the Coalition's reinforcements, an imposing line of ships that stretched across the void, their weapons trained on the Alliance forces. Ford raised his hand, a steely resolve in his eyes. "All ships, open fire." The final battle began, a fierce clash that would determine the fate of the Alliance. Ford and his crew fought with everything they had, using every tactic and every trick they could muster. The coalition ships fought back with equal ferocity, their commanders determined to salvage what remained of their failed invasion. In the end, it was the alliance's unity and resilience that turned the tide. Ford's leadership, combined with the bravery of the alliance captains and their crews, proved too much for the coalition's forces. The enemy ships fell one by one, their remnants scattering across the battlefield as the alliance claimed victory. As the last of the coalition ships retreated, the alliance fleet held its ground, their triumphant cheers echoing across the calm channels. Humanity had taken control, and the galaxy would never forget the day they made their stand. Section 4. The dust had barely settled when the Alliance ships regrouped at a neutral station in orbit around the planet Tyrion, a well-defended outpost known for its diplomatic neutrality. As the fleet docked for repairs and resupply, there was an undeniable sense of relief and quiet pride among the crews. They had done the impossible, repelling the coalition's assault and standing tall in the face of overwhelming odds. Captain Ford, Lieutenant Ortega, and the rest of the SS Venture crew disembarked, walking through the bustling corridors of the Tyrion station with a new sense of purpose. Ford was greeted by representatives from other Alliance species who offered congratulations, shaking his hand and acknowledging his courage. It was a far cry from the wary looks humans had received when they first joined the Alliance. Now, respect and gratitude filled the air wherever Ford and his team went. Alliance Command had convened an emergency meeting, and Ford, along with other key captains, was invited to discuss the aftermath of the battle and the way forward. The central hall was filled with holographic displays showing the battle's highlights, the decoy maneuvers, the ambushes, and the final assault against the coalition's reinforcements. The tactics the humans had introduced would go down in Alliance history as a lesson in adaptability and resilience. Captain Araka, who had fought alongside Ford in the heart of the nebula, addressed the assembly. We all owe a debt of gratitude to Captain Ford and his crew. They showed us that unconventional thinking can prevail even when the odds are against us. He looked over at Ford, his bioluminescent skin glowing with admiration. Captain, you have my respect. I would fight by your side any time. Ford nodded respectfully, appreciating the praise. Thank you, Captain Araka. It was an honor to stand with you all. The Alliance Council members, including some who had previously doubted humanity's worth, exchanged glances. Counselor Illyra rose, her voice carrying through the hall with an authority honed over years of leadership. This battle has reminded us that every species in the Alliance brings something unique to the table. Humanity's creativity and adaptability have proven to be assets we cannot ignore. Ford shifted uncomfortably and used to the formal praise. With all due respect, Counselor Illyra, we did what anyone would do when their home is threatened. Humans may approach things differently, but that's only because we've always had to think on our feet. Earth's history is full of challenges and conflicts that taught us to adapt quickly. Counselor Illyra smiled. Precisely, Captain. That adaptability is why we need humanity's leadership moving forward. The galaxy is changing, and we will need minds like yours to face what lies ahead. As Illyra spoke, a ripple of agreement spread through the council members. Ford felt a swell of pride, but also a weight of responsibility. Earth had always been a planet of dreamers, explorers, and survivors. But now, humanity had a new role among the stars, as a force for stability, courage, and resilience. The council adjourned, and Ford stepped out of the hall to find a crowd of Alliance officers and civilians gathered to catch a glimpse of the human captain who had changed the course of the battle. Young cadets looked up at him with admiration, and seasoned officers nodded respectfully. The respect and gratitude he saw in their eyes confirmed that humanity had left an indelible mark on the Alliance. As Ford walked through the station, he was joined by Lieutenant Ortega and Zane Walker. Ortega looked up at the distant stars visible through the station's glass ceiling. Do you think they'll still need us, Captain? Ford smiled, glancing back at his crew. Ortega, I think this is just the beginning. We've shown the galaxy what humans are capable of. Now it's up to us to make sure that trust isn't misplaced. The crew of the SS Venture spent the next few days on Tyrian Station, recovering from the grueling battle. Celebrations filled the station, with humans and other species alike sharing stories of the battle. Friendships and alliances were forged, bonds that would last long beyond this conflict. Back on Earth, the news of the Alliance victory and humanity's role in it spread like wildfire. People across the planet celebrated, feeling a deep sense of pride for their place in the galaxy. Earth's leaders received messages of congratulations from species across the galaxy, each acknowledging the bravery and innovation that humanity had brought to the Alliance. A week later, Ford and his crew gathered on the bridge of the SS Venture, preparing for their next assignment. As they took their positions, Ford addressed his crew with a sense of determination. "We've proven that humanity has a place among the stars, but this victory isn't the end. We'll keep pushing forward, keep adapting, and keep defending those who can't defend themselves. This galaxy is our home now, and we'll protect it with everything we have." Ortega grinned, leaning back in her chair. "So, Captain, where to next?" Ford glanced at the holographic map of the galaxy, filled with distant stars and unexplored regions. He smiled, feeling the weight of Earth's legacy on his shoulders, but also the thrill of discovery. "Wherever they need us, Lieutenant. Wherever they need us." With a final command, the SS Venture slipped into hyperspace, leaving Tyrian Station and Earth's old reputation behind. Humanity had taken control of its destiny in the galaxy, and the universe held its breath, waiting to see what the humans would do next. The SS Venture sailed through hyperspace with a smooth hum, its crew finally able to relax for a moment after the intense battles. Captain Ford, standing on the bridge with his familiar confident stance, gazed at the endless star-streaked void ahead. The galaxy now knew what humanity could do, but Ford felt the weight of that reputation on his shoulders. They were no longer just explorers from a backwater planet, they were now seen as defenders, strategists, and, for better or worse, a powerful new force in the galaxy's complex political landscape. As they sped toward their next destination, a quiet Alliance outpost in need of defense upgrades, Ford's thoughts drifted to the implications of humanity's new role. They had shaken the very foundations of the Galactic Alliance's perception, earning both allies and inevitable scrutiny. As Ford pondered the challenges ahead, he felt a strange mix of pride and apprehension. The galaxy was a vast place, and he knew that the Alliance's support was only as strong as humanity's next action. A familiar voice interrupted his thoughts. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Alliance Command," Lieutenant Ortega reported, her face showing a trace of concern. Ford nodded. "Put it through." The hologram shimmered to life, revealing the image of Counselor Illyra, her calm expression as unreadable as ever. "Captain Ford," she began, her voice measured, "I wanted to personally thank you and your crew once again for your role in the recent battle. You've proven yourselves as indispensable members of the Alliance." "Thank you, Counselor," Ford replied, nodding respectfully. "We're honored to serve, and will continue to protect the galaxy in whatever way we can." Counselor Illyra's expression shifted subtly. "I have no doubt of that, Captain. But the very success that has elevated humanity's status has also made Earth a focal point of attention, and not all of it is positive. The coalition is regrouping, and our intelligence indicates they may be forming alliances of their own. They see humanity as a destabilizing influence." Ford's jaw tightened. "I see. So, they're not done with us." "Far from it," Illyra replied, her gaze intense. "The coalition perceives humanity's rapid rise as a threat to the old order. They've sent envoys to various neutral systems, spreading rumors of humanity's unpredictability and framing Earth's presence as dangerous to galactic stability." Ford's mind raced. The coalition was shifting their tactics, attempting to turn public opinion and other species against humanity, leveraging fear rather than open warfare. Counselor Illyra continued, her voice thoughtful. Captain, I believe humanity's strength lies not only in your adaptability but in your ability to form genuine bonds. You don't merely forge alliances, you build relationships. I encourage you to do just that. Show the galaxy that humanity is more than just a wild card species. Ford nodded, understanding her words as both a challenge and a strategy. Humanity's strength had always come from its diversity, its capacity to connect and empathize. If they could show the galaxy that their presence was one of unity rather than chaos, it might diffuse the coalition's efforts. I appreciate your guidance, Counselor, Ford replied, his tone resolute. We'll do everything we can to earn the trust of those who see us with suspicion. As the transmission ended, Ford turned to his crew. You heard her. Our next mission isn't just to protect, it's to prove who we are. Let's show them that humanity isn't here to disrupt, but to help. Every encounter, every alliance we form is a chance to reshape how they see Earth. Over the next several weeks, the SS Venture embarked on a new kind of campaign. They visited diplomatic outposts, assisted in humanitarian missions, and provided support to vulnerable systems on the outskirts of the galaxy. Everywhere they went, they met species with cautious eyes and wary expressions, and with each encounter, they worked to shift those perspectives. One of the most challenging stops was on Lyra, a planet that had historically held strong ties to the Coalition. As Ford and his crew assisted in disaster relief following a severe planetary storm, the locals watched them carefully, some with open skepticism. But as Ford and his team helped rebuild homes, clear debris, and provide medical aid, the initial distrust began to soften. In one moment that resonated deeply with the crew, an elderly Vylaran woman approached Ford, her silver eyes filled with both curiosity and hesitation. She studied him for a moment, her lined face unreadable, before finally speaking. You're different than I expected, she said, her voice cautious yet honest. The Coalition tells us that humans bring chaos, that you fight for the sake of fighting. Ford met her gaze with a calm smile. We don't want war any more than anyone else does. But we'll stand up for ourselves, and we'll protect anyone who needs help. That's what humanity stands for. The woman studied him, her skepticism melting into a thoughtful look. Perhaps there's more to you than the Coalition says. Moments like these were small victories, but they built a growing tide of support for humanity's role in the galaxy. Bit by bit, Ford and his crew won over skeptics and turned allies into friends. The Coalition's propaganda was strong, but it couldn't match the personal bonds that humanity forged through each act of assistance and solidarity. Back on the SS Venture, Lieutenant Ortega summarized their progress. Captain, our diplomatic efforts are gaining traction. Reports indicate that several neutral systems are now reconsidering their alliances. Some have even expressed interest in joining the alliance. Ford nodded, pleased. Good work, everyone. We're making a difference. However, the celebration was short-lived. An urgent message arrived from Counselor Illyra, her face grim. Captain Ford, we have troubling news. The Coalition has orchestrated an attack on a neutral system, framing it as an alliance operation. They're hoping to incite a backlash against the alliance and its human members. Ford's expression hardened. The Coalition was getting desperate, resorting to subterfuge to tarnish the alliance's image. Where did this happen, Counselor? They targeted an outpost in the Orzen sector. Civilian casualties were reported. They're calling for retribution, and tensions are escalating quickly. Ford clenched his fists. We'll set course for Orzen immediately. We'll show them who was really behind this attack. As the SS Venture sped toward the Orzen sector, Ford's resolve strengthened. Humanity had faced threats before, but this was different. Now they were up against an enemy that fought with lies and manipulation, an enemy who feared not just humanity's strength, but their ability to change the galaxy for the better. When they arrived in Orzen, they found a community on the edge of panic, their trust in the alliance shaken. Ford and his crew wasted no time, meeting with local leaders, gathering evidence, and working tirelessly to expose the coalition's treachery. After days of investigation, Ford and his crew uncovered critical proof: logs of the coalition ship's presence in Orzen before the attack, falsified reports designed to frame the alliance, and transmissions linking coalition commanders to the assault. With the evidence in hand, Ford addressed the Orzen leaders and representatives from nearby systems. "The coalition wants you to believe that we are the enemy, that humanity is here to bring chaos. But the truth is, they fear us because we stand against their tyranny. Humanity doesn't seek to control or conquer. We seek a galaxy where every world can stand in peace." His words, combined with the irrefutable proof, spread like wildfire. News channels across the galaxy broadcast the revelations, exposing the coalition's deceit and rallying further support for the alliance. The coalition's grip on the galaxy was weakening, their allies questioning their motives, and their propaganda failing in the face of humanity's honest actions. As the SS Venture departed Orzen, Ford felt a sense of fulfillment that went beyond victory in battle. They had shown the galaxy the true nature of humanity, not through force, but through integrity and perseverance. Back aboard the SS Venture, as they sailed into the stars once more, Lieutenant Ortega turned to Ford with a smile. "Well, Captain, it looks like the galaxy is finally starting to see us for who we are." Ford nodded, a satisfied smile on his face. "We still have a long way to go, Ortega. But if we can hold on to our values, if we can keep showing them what humanity stands for, then maybe we can help shape a better future." The SS Venture moved forward, carrying its crew and its message of hope, unity, and resilience. Humanity had taken its place among the stars, and the universe held its breath, waiting to see the legacy Earth's defenders would leave behind.